Hey folks, thanks for checking out this video. Robert, the narrator here. Wanted to do another video about my high fantasy TTRPG piece, the RPG. I've done a couple of series now. I did a 5-video series on the origins and kind of the design principles of the game. I did a series of for the 3-player races in the game. And I did a 3-video series about the core mechanics of the game. This won't be a video series, but I did want to come on and talk about magic and how it fit in the setting and some of the mechanical things that you have to think about with the game. So in the basic edition of the game, you have 2 full casting types. You have Cyphermancers, who what wizards are called in the setting, and then you have priests, who are invokers in the basic edition of the game. Then you have 2 other types that use magic. They fall in the adventurer vocation. You have minor rites, which is a talent for characters that are like clerics. And then you have simple casters who use innate spell casting for minor magical effects. And I'll talk about all of those. So first, just how the full-blown casters function in the setting. You'll find your full-blown casters under the adept vocation. In Peace, the adept vocation includes highly skilled practitioners of the arcane arts we call Cyphermancers, and pious holy men we call priests. If a player would like to access and alter the essence of reality by casting powerful spells or utter prayers to vanquish the foul and unrighteous, you'll find both of those in the adept vocation in the basic edition of the game. Cyphermancers use the spellcasting talent to force mana to obey their will. Priests use the prayer talent to entreat their gods. And I'll talk a little bit about how spell casting works in the setting. Throughout the history of the world, some mortals have wondered if the gods have truly entrusted man with free will. They've wondered if they have been given all the tools to shape the world to their liking. Some see the divine powers the worshippers of gods wield as attempts by the gods to pacify man. The most intrepid among these individuals have been called by many names: sorcerers, mages, wizards, magic users, but today they are called Cyphermancers. Cyphermancers have learned the mental practices required to penetrate the barriers between mortals and the building blocks of the cosmos. The building blocks are called mana. Once a Cyphermancer has access to mana, they must learn to break the codes which prevent them from shaping and manipulating it. That is why they are called Cyphermancers. Mana, the very essence of the cosmos, has its secrets protected by codes. If the codes can be broken, mana can be shaped and the cosmos can be changed. And now we'll talk about a personal code. Everything is tied into the cosmos. Mana flows through all its creations. Though everything is tied to the cosmos, everything is unique. No 2 persons are the same. No 2 rocks or raindrops are exactly alike. If they were, once an individual learned to break the code for a specific thing, she could affect all things like it in the entire cosmos all at once. Just as everything that exists is different, so too is the way everything is tied into the cosmos. For that reason, every Cyphermancer's codes are different. A Cyphermancer must unlock his method of decoding mana. Because of every being's unique connection to the cosmos, no other Cyphermancer's codes will work. Cyphermancers can't exchange spells or write scrolls and give them away. Their codes are inextricably linked to their unique connection to the cosmos. Every being has the potential to interact with the building blocks of the cosmos, but only very few ever learn to do so. Cyphermancers realize their potential through rigorous mental training, study, trial, and error. Now, hundreds of years ago, the tried and true process of casting a spell was discovered. The first step for a cyphermancer is to learn to peer into the spaces between the planes of existence where unformed mana lies. This is done with elaborate mental exercises that allows the cyphermancer to bypass the cosmos' safeguards. Mana swirls and twists slowly like a living thing. It appears multicolored: red, white, purple, green, blue, and yellow. When viewed, it appears to churn against a perfectly black background. Once the cyphermancer can look upon it, she can begin to decode it. She memorizes the symbols and shapes of the unique code that will cause the mana to obey her. She writes them in midair as if she were outlining them. As she does, the vigorated stuff of the cosmos swirls at her fingertip and assists her in writing her wishes into reality. That is how a spell is cast. So that is how the spell casting talent works for casting spells. And one other unique aspect of cyphermancers, or the wizards in the setting, are their casting stones. Now, a cyphermancer's codes are too complex to mentally retain despite the speed at which spells can be cast. It is also thought that the cosmos tugs at the information, trying to pull it away from the cyphermancer's mind to hide it away again. For that reason, every few days, every cyphermancer must practice her codes. Assisting her with memorization is a casting stone. They are magical items which will record the caster's codes. Through the stone, she can mentally access the codes and practice them. Stones have different appearances. Some are round, opaque gray, flat, rune-covered stone slabs the size and thickness of a large tome. They have a hole in the centers and are usually carried on a chain. Some are bright, multifaceted crystals the size of pineapples, broad at one end and carried by hand at its tapered, pointed end. Some cyphermancers embed their crystals into staves. Some others have large crystals made into bracers which run the entire length of the cyphermancer's forearm. And here is a picture of what a cyphermancer with a crystalline bracer would look like. Many cyphermancers prefer this method of the crystalline bracer if they can afford one to be fashioned to secure their stones. And I'll tell you, in the setting, more than a few cyphermancers have had their forearms cut off if they have a casting stone to hinder their ability to cast spells, and if they needed to be taken alive, healed after having their forearms severed from their body. After multiple days of not being able to practice their codes through their casting stone, they start to take penalties on their ability to cast, and eventually they will lose the ability altogether until they're able to either retrieve their stone or to purchase a new casting stone. One other cool thing with the casting stones are if a spellcaster can find another or get a hold of another cyphermancer's casting stone, they can study it and get bonuses to cast spells against that cyphermancer if they possess their casting stone. So that's a cool little effect of the stone. And then a cyphermancer with a casting stone on a chain. Now let's talk about the prayer talent and priests in the setting. Cyphermancers use logic, theory, study, and practice to unlock the secrets of the cosmos. Many believe them to be eccentric, brash, and fractious at best. Others believe them to be faithless, power-hungry, and dangerous at worst. They see cyphermancers as trying to circumvent the will of the gods and tamper with things not meant for mortal understanding. Those aware of the prophecy find the ciphermancer's practices troubling indeed. The opposite view is held for the priest. Even those who don't worship find the piety of the priest to be more in line with the natural order. Knowing someone believes in something greater than themselves puts others at ease. Of course, agreeing with the doctrine of that greater something is another matter entirely. Ciphermancers draw their power from the rigorous mental mastery of themselves and the essence of the cosmos. Priests wield the power inherent in being a conduit and advocate for the will of a god. Priests don't hunt for the cosmos's secrets. They hunt for the clarity and emptiness that will allow them to know the will of their higher authority. They don't claim to know the answers. They just hope to be perfect servants. The wizards use complex formulas and codes to change the world. The priest prays for assistance from a higher being, and if that being finds the priest's works good, allows her to wield a portion of its immense power. Now, priests in the world of six peoples, I'll describe what they are like in the setting. In the land of six peoples, priests are typically found among human communities. Elves adhere to a mixture of imperial cultism and animism. Their sovereign or queen is a demigod representative of and birthed from nature. Their priestesses are more shamanic, serving their queen and the spirits of nature. Orcs also worship nature, but in a different fashion. They commune with elementals to gain strength and guidance, but don't practice the preservation of nature. They see nature as violent, unpredictable, and destructive. They believe they should reflect the same qualities. Titans are former gods themselves, and the beliefs of goblins and trolls are unknown. Of course, in the basic edition of the game, Titans, goblins, and trolls are not included, but they are included in the, of course, the full edition of the game. Human priests can be found throughout the land, and the clear majority worship the human god Cord. Cord embodies the 5 aspects central to human moral and social beliefs. Those aspects are compassion, cruelty, cunning, justice, and strength. Cord is depicted as a powerful, white-bearded, mahogany-skinned man, one powerful hand holding a large rock, symbolizing strength, one hand upturned holding a goblin, a goblin, not a goblin, that would be funny, but a dove, holding a dove, which symbolizes compassion, one foot resting on the back of a child, which symbolizes cruelty, a large warhammer in his belt for justice, and next to a dagger, which represents cunning. All these aspects balance the mortal world. Without cruelty to fight, justice and compassion could become decadent or oppressive. And how can there be an effective opposition to cruelty without strength or cunning? So though that is how priests fit into the setting. It's called the Land of Six Peoples. And quickly, I will go over minor rites and simple casting as well. So I'll pull that up to reference from the book here. And that would be under Adventurer. Minor rites. Heroes possessing the minor rites talent worship a god or other powerful being. Adventurers with the talent mix martial prowess with the powerful magical talents the being they worship gifts them. Mechanically, the adventurer hero must have a power attack stat of at least 1d6 plus 1, and will not need the power attack stat to be much higher. The reason for this is the minor rites adventurer, unlike the adept, will attack targets using the warfare attack stat and use their minor rites talents to augment those attacks. Heroes with minor rites. In peace, a hero with minor rites will be the worshiper of a powerful entity. In most cases, that entity will be the human god Cord. An adventurer of this type will have devoted a great portion of her life to observing one of Chord's 5 aspects: compassion, cruelty, cunning, justice, or strength. Those blessed with the minor rites talent are war clerics or war priests. They are the military of the church. A hero will come from the compassion, justice, or strength sects of the church and is charged with protecting the innocent and vanquishing evil. Now, simple casting in the Land of Six Peoples. There are a myriad of examples of simple casters in fantasy literature. Geralt of The Witcher being just one example. In Peace, there is one setting specific archetype based on the simple casting talent, the Nullborn. The Nullborn are individuals whose connection to mana is obscured and hard to trace. The reason for that is a Nullborn's connections to mana seem to constantly shift and reach out or attempt to leech upon the connections of other living creatures. Because of that, Nullborn tend to be difficult to affect with magic and sometimes develop the ability to mimic magical talents of others or siphon mana from the living. There are simple casting related talents which allow a Nullborn to develop these unique gifts. So that is one of the really only simple casting archetypes in the game. Otherwise, there are several simple casting talents in the game. As I said, simple casting is a more innate magical effects, which the simple caster really doesn't have to study to learn. And you'll find that a lot of archetypes like rangers or beastmasters will have simple casting to use those magical effects that really reinforce their archetype in the game. Now, quickly, just a mechanical idea behind the magic in Peace. No, the magic users or characters who use magic in Peace, there is a PowerPoint system during character creation. If you get one of the casting talents, spell casting, prayer, minor rites, or simple casting, the talent gives you PowerPoints. And Peace uses a PowerPoint system to track how many spells you can cast. And mechanically for spell casting, for example, using spells that have effects at range, a great thing that I really like about the PowerPoint system is how many points you put into the spell. PowerPoints determines the range of your spell or the furthest target you can affect. So when I came up with that idea, I always loved the idea of empowering the spell, determining how far away your target can be for you to be able to attack them. And that is something that I've always really liked, that I developed for the system, empowering spells. So that is one additional step that users of magic in the game have. Of course, when they attack, they use the power attack stat, and they have to spend attack points equal to the target's resistance, just like any other type of attack. But they have the additional step of having to power their talents using their power points. And after 15 minutes of not using power points, any character who has a power point trait will get 5 power points back. That's how they replenish their power points. You can also spend a battle scar to regain power points. And simple casters and spell casters and prayer and minor rites users have something called batteries. Spellcasters and simple casters can use what are called arcane batteries. They are basically enchanted clay discs that can be purchased, and the clay disc opens a conduit into the places between the planes of existence where unformed mana lies. and allows them to absorb mana to get power points back, and that destroys the disc. So it's kind of a one-time use. So that is another method that simple casters and spellcasters can use to get power points back. Minor rites users and prayer users have what's called a favor battery, and that essentially a devotional article that is blessed and prayed over, which allows them to get power points back to continue to use their invocations. It's a blessed item that can be purchased from temples and so forth. So that's how those users of magic can get power points back. So that is how mechanically some of the magical systems in the game works, and also how narratively all of those different types of users of magic fit into the setting. Please let me know what you think in the comments below, and as usual, in the description below, I have included the PDF for the basic edition of my role-playing game. If you would love to check it out, I'd love to hear what you think about it, and including a file fillable hero sheet to if you wanted to create a hero. So thanks for checking out this video. Talk to you later.